Good morning and welcome to the virtual CISO Moment Cybersecurity Quick Strike for Monday, September 11th, 2023. I usually start out these podcasts by saying Happy Monday or Happy Friday, but remembering 22 years ago doesn't evoke feelings of happiness whatsoever. It was a day exactly like today. I look out the window in a beautiful, clear blue sky. Of course, we'd realized later that that was a requirement for what was about to happen. It's hard to believe it was 22 years ago, and lots changed, and yet we still have a lot of issues in the world that seemingly we never going to be able to solve. But remember those who perished that day, and remember first responders and all of those who have given their lives, even if they may not have given it on the battlefield, but have lost a lot of themselves physically and mentally in the ensuing war that happened. We start today from InfoSecurity magazine. The Associated Press has warned the users of a popular writing style guide has been hit by a phishing attacks after the personal information was compromised in a data breach. Now, the Associated Press style book, APS, is used by journalists and editors to ensure their copy conforms with official AP writing guidelines, so that everything is uniform, basically, and all the articles look the same, and there's no misinterpretation of what's written. But anyway, going back to the article, the threat actors managed to obtain subscribers' personal information after targeting a legacy third-party site. That's often what happens. Quote, the personal information was stored in a database that was accessible on an old APS website that was no longer in use, but still had available online and maintained on our behalf by an outside service provider, stylebrooks.com. Sounds like a change management issue. As a result of the security incident described below, personal information of APS customers stored on the old website was unlawfully accessed and may have been acquired by an unauthorized third party. The incident was only discovered after victims alerted stylebooks.com that they started to receive phishing emails directing them to a fake APS site which requested credit card details. It was assessed that the threat actor had accessed the old website between July 16th and 22nd of this year. AP has alerted all victims about the phishing emails and is offering 24 months of complimentary credit monitoring and identity restoration services. It is also forcing all APS customers to change their passwords before accessing the active AP-style website. Another phishing campaign, this one, is abusing Microsoft Teams messages to send malicious attachments that install the Darkgate loader malware. Now, this according to Bleeping Computer. The campaign started in late August 2023 when Microsoft Teams phishing messages were seen being sent by two compromised external Office 365 accounts to other organizations. These accounts were used to trick other Microsoft Teams users into downloading and opening a zip file named Changes to the Vacation Schedule. Clicking on the attachment triggers the download of the zip file from a SharePoint URL and contains a link file masquerading as a PDF document. Researchers at TrueSec analyzed the Microsoft Teams phishing campaign and found that it contains malicious VBS script that triggers the infection chain that leads to a payload identified as the Darkgate loader. vCISO Services is a small, specialized, veteran-owned information security firm with a calling, founded on Christian values and focused on the needs of small and mid-sized businesses. Our passion is to help small and mid-sized businesses gain a fighting chance in an increasingly hostile cybersecurity threat environment by providing executive part-time virtual CISO services, information security risk management services. Check them out at vcisoservices.com. A little technical glitch there. Sorry about that. Ars Technica reports that Cisco on Thursday confirmed the existence of a currently unpatched zero-day vulnerability that hackers are exploiting to gain unauthorized access to two widely used security appliances it sells. The vulnerability resides in Cisco's adaptive security appliance software and its firepower threat defense, which are typically abbreviated as ASA and FTD because of acronyms. Cisco said that researchers from Cisco have known since last week that a ransomware crime syndicate called Akira was gaining access to devices through password spraying and brute forcing. Password spraying, as you're probably aware, It's also known as credential stuffing, involves trying a handful of commonly used passwords like ABC123 for a large number of usernames in an attempt to prevent detection and subsequent lockouts. In brute force attacks, hackers use a much larger corpus of password guesses against a more limited number of usernames. Quote, an attacker could exploit this vulnerability by specifying a default connection profile tunnel group while conducting a brute force attack or while establishing a clientless SSL VPN session using valid credentials, Cisco officials wrote in an advisory. It continues to say a successful exploit could allow the attacker to achieve one or both of the following. Identify valid credentials that could then be used to establish an unauthorized remote access VPN session. Establish a clientless SSL VPN session only when running Cisco ASA software release 9.16 or higher. For those not aware, the ASA is an all-in-one security device that provides firewall, antivirus, intrusion prevention, and virtual private network protections. The FTD is Cisco's next-generation device that combines the ASA's capabilities with a finer-grained management console and other more advanced features. The vulnerability is tracked as 2023-20269, stems from the device's improper separation of authentication, authorization, and accounting in remote access among their VPN, HTTPS management, and site-to-site VPN features. It does have a severity rating of 5.0 out of a possible 10. According to the HIPAA Journal, a recent survey of healthcare professionals indicates 78% of healthcare organizations have experienced at least one cybersecurity incident in the last 12 months. That's a lot. 60% of those incidents have had a moderate or significant impact on the delivery of care. 15% had a severe impact, and 30% involved sensitive data. Protected health information, PHI, was exposed or stolen in 34% of incidents in North America. This survey was conducted by Pollfish on behalf of the cybersecurity firm Clarity on 1,100 individuals in North and South America, APAC, and Europe. Researchers worked full-time in the health sector in cybersecurity, engineering, IT, or networking. The survey indicates 26% of organizations that experienced a cyber attack paid a ransom to either prevent the release of the stolen data or to decrypt the files. And the cost of these attacks typically ranged from about $100,000 to $1 million, but more than 1/3 who experienced said that the recovery costs were over $1 million. Now, the survey does indicate that healthcare organizations do have a clear understanding of the aspects of security that needs to be improved. The biggest gaps, you may ask, were cited as medical device vulnerability patching, asset inventory management, and medical device network segmentation. 60% of respondents said their organization's security posture has improved over the last 12 months. So that's, I guess, a good thing right there. North Korea ramps up intelligence gathering attacks, as reported by SC Media. Numerous countries, governments, and defense organizations have been targeted by North Korean hacking groups and cyber espionage attacks since the beginning of the year, and they're referencing a report from Bleeping Computer. Successful attacks have been launched by North Korean threat operations Ruby Sleet, also known as Cerium, and Oink Sleet, also known as Plutonium, against a Russian aerospace research organization and Russian university device in March, according to a Microsoft report. Russian diplomatic entities also have been subjected to a phishing campaign by Opal Street, also known as Osmium. During the same month, attacks against firms in Israel and Germany have also been launched by Ruby Sleet and Diamond Sleet, also known as Zinc and Lazarus. Quote from Microsoft. From November of 2022 to January of 2023, Microsoft observed a second instance of targeting overlaps with Ruby Sleet and Diamond Sleet compromising defense firms. Since January 23, Diamond Sleet has also compromised defense companies in Brazil, Czechia, Finland, Italy, Norway, and Poland. That's according again to Microsoft. I've talked about the need to decompress on this podcast. I always ask every guest about it, and part of that is because I've dealt with that myself. It's not good to be in a bad place when Monday morning comes around and you dread Monday morning and so much stress involved and you don't want to go to work, whether it be a toxic environment, as was my case, or just way too much stress in cyber, too much responsibility, not enough help, not enough support from the C-suite or board or what have you. And it goes on and on. But there is a lot of stress in cyber. I get that. That's why I talk about it a lot. And that's also why when I came across this post from Jacob Jesuits, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, I'm sorry, Jacob. He covers this, and I recommend that y'all read it. Here's an excerpt. This is what Jacob says. Try to figure out what your life priorities are and set your boundaries around them. Some people in the industry can dedicate hundreds of hours per year to improving their craft, developing content, blogging, and pursuing other opportunities. Other people just want to work a 9 to 5 and prioritize other hobbies, or simply do not want to dedicate all their time to work. Figure out what works best for you and stick with that. There's nothing wrong with either approach as long as you're happy with it. With social media, it's very easy to compare yourself to others in the industry and life in general. But remember, most people use social media as a highlight reel and rarely share their shortcomings or failures. He goes on to say, I failed Security Plus and CCNA and Azure fundamentals. First time I took them. When I took my first SANS course, I was incredibly overwhelmed working through the material and ended up wasting a ton of money on exam extensions from analysis paralysis. I was so overwhelmed I didn't work on the course at all until eventually the deadline was a week away. These struggles made me stronger and more confident in my abilities, helping me identify what methods of study worked best for me, but they are rarely things people share on social media. Despite these lessons, I still find myself in the same situation, sometimes overcome with too many options or in a position where I said yes to too many things at once. Huge problem, and I'll touch on social media a little bit as well, too. The number of connections, the number of likes, the number of follows, those sorts of things, the number of subscribers, the number of views, in the long run, they're not really that important. Particularly if you're sacrificing your health, your mental health, your physical health. I would also submit that if you're sacrificing your core job, if your core job is information security, don't obsess over having the perfect LinkedIn posting record or anything like that. Just do what works well for you. Don't compare yourself to other folks out there, because there are a lot of folks that they'll spend their entire time working on LinkedIn materials or YouTube content, and really maybe aren't doing so much in the security field, or vice versa. I love the fact that Jacob basically is focusing here. Take the time to figure out what works best for you and do it. And I would also say, take a break. And if you're in a job that I've said this many times before, if you're in a job that you can answer the question, what keeps you up at night, with a job related issue, I would submit that you should think about changing jobs. That's ultimately what I did. And not to say that every now and then I don't have worries, but I'm not going to let it affect my health and my sleep. So anyway, check the link in the show notes for the full post. I do hope you enjoy that. And that is it for today. Hope you have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow with the interview. And until then, have a wonderfully blessed day and stay secure.